we gave a critique of Governor Gavin Newsom's address that he delivered to the people of the state of California. We broke it down. We told you what was good, what was wrong, what was an error. And I want to just start this by saying I have to apologize to you. I was a little hard on the governor. I called him demonic, a sleazebag, a psychopath, a sociopath, a liar. Did I mention demonic? Evil. And I'm sorry. I'm truly, truly sorry. Because I left out that he's a money-grubbing, sleazy grifter who's literally trying to profit off of the violence and mayhem in the streets of California. I apologize. Shouldn't have left that out. Let's start at the beginning. You'll remember before he delivered his speech, his address, his official address as governor of California to the people of his state, he wanted Sean Hannity to carry it live on Fox News. Remember?
All right, this is a Fox News alert. Governor Newsom just texted me and was asking me whether or not we will be taking some of his press conference at the bottom of the hour. So that'll be about 3 minutes from right now as he's slated to address the nation. I will fact check it in real time.
Now, you'll remember that he did, in fact, run that speech. And of course, the audio wasn't working. It was all busted and you couldn't even hear it. And eventually they rejoined it after the fact, after they fixed their technical difficulties. But understand something. Gavin Newsom proactively asked the #1 cable station to run this speech because he wanted as many people possible to see his statement to the people of California. Now, we thought it was because he was being a leader of the people and he wanted to make sure that everybody heard his message. But now we realize that the reason he wanted all those people to see it is because he wants the Benjamins. He wants the money. There's profit in this whole scheme as his city burns. I'm being serious. You see, we used the speech yesterday. We talked about it. We broke it down. We critiqued it. We explained to you what he was lying about, and we gave our response in real time. We broke it down into pieces, stopped and started, and used our free speech rights to give what's called fair use commentary on the governor of California's official remarks to the people of California. And we woke up this morning with this. Gavin Newsom issued a YouTube copyright claim through the This Is Gavin Newsom podcast for his address to California. Targeted me, and I'm guessing other content creators out there on various platforms. YouTube, of course, as is their standard practice, immediately demonetized the video. That's fine, honestly. It's funny. It's ironic. You'll see that the claimant was iHeartMedia. Now, that's a radio and podcast company. Not this company. We're Salem Media. We're friendly. I like a lot of the people who are on iHeartMedia. This isn't really a fight with iHeart. But I joked yesterday when the microphone wasn't working. I said, hey, isn't this guy a professional podcaster? That's his main job. His sideline job is actually governing the state of California. You'd think he'd get good equipment. Little did I know that I was speaking the truth, that wasn't a speech by the governor of California. That was an episode of his podcast that now he's claiming copyright on, and we can't rebroadcast any portion of it. Listen, we know what fair use means here. First of all, when a public official in the capacity of his office delivers remarks, look at him with the flag of California behind him and the American flag addressing the people of California. This isn't a podcast. This isn't, you can't copyright that. He was begging Sean Hannity to put it on Fox News. We are allowed to use our First Amendment free speech to criticize, analyze, and comment on the public remarks of an elected official, number one. Number two, even beyond that, if he was in fact delivering these remarks in the capacity of his podcast or a television show, we're pretty familiar with what fair use is, okay? This show interacts with videos of all stripes. You may wonder why sometimes we don't do something that was on Colbert or Kimmel or on The Daily Show. You want to know why? Because every time we get one of these, they protect every little utterance of Jon Stewart. You cannot criticize Jon Stewart. They protect his butt. So we know what fair use is. And by the way, if you don't know what fair use is, this is from the copyright website of the United States government. Under the fair use doctrine of the U.S. copyright statute, it's permissible to use limited portions of a work, including quotes, for purposes such as commentary, criticism, news reporting, and scholarly reports. Obviously, we fall under the category of scholarly reports. They go on to say there are no legal rules permitting the use of a specific number of words, a certain number of musical notes, or percentage of work. In other words, there are no guidelines about, okay, you can only use this much. You can only use 10 seconds or 50 seconds or 10 minutes or what have you. That's why, by the way, during the speech or during other segments that we do on this show, I often stop and start and I break it up and I jump in after playing just a minute and a half because it's ongoing criticism and analysis of what you're seeing and news commentary. It's our product that we're creating. We're not just reproducing and showing you somebody else's product. Now, that's fair use doctrine when it comes to something that actually is under the umbrella of a copyright, not a speech by a governor of a state addressing the people of his state during riots and a state of emergency in the city of Los Angeles. This is absolute insanity. This isn't about copyright. This is about Gavin Newsom wanting to use these laws and protections that he thinks he is afforded because of his podcast contract to inoculate himself from any criticism, to protect himself from any of us being able to call him out on his lies and to give our side of the story. That's what authoritarians do. That's what totalitarians do. That's what the Democrat governor of California, the loathsome, evil, serpentine-tongued serpent man, Gavin Newsom, is doing right now. All the while, he accuses Donald Trump of being a fascist and an authoritarian and a totalitarian, using thug-like tactics that will shred our Constitution. And then you start to criticize that speech, and he silences you. Take that video down. Copyright claim from his podcast company. So, yeah, part of this is protecting himself from any kind of criticism. But I think there's another angle here, too. The fact that he's calling out this as a copyright protection of his content that he and his company, through his podcast contract, can monetize. You see, if anyone's going to make money off of this, it's got to be Gavin Newsom. How dare you? How dare you actually make money off of your criticism and news commentary of my content, my speech? I'm the only one around here who can profit off of the mayhem in the streets that I'm allowing to occur. This is a great grift. You're the governor of California. Federal law enforcement officers are enforcing immigration laws in your state. Riots break out. You do nothing about it. Trump protects federal buildings and federal law enforcement officers on the street from the thugs that you're letting have free reign on the streets. Then you deliver a speech condemning the law enforcement officers and the military, and then you make money off of it by protecting your speech through your podcast contract with iHeart. This is brilliant. Honestly, I admire the grift. It's impressive. It's impressive that he can do it. Who knew that this speech with his flags, as he addressed the people of California and the people of the country through Sean Hannity's show as the governor of California, was really just a plan to build up his podcast audience and attack anybody else who might want to bring newsworthy content to the table as well. Listen, this isn't new for him. We pointed this out yesterday. While his city streets were burning and small business owners, family-owned shops were being devastated by the rioters that he refuses to stop and arrest, his wife was just across town in Beverly Hills shopping with security and a $4,000 Birkin bag. Listen, somebody's got to pay for her shopping spree. So he's got to make sure his podcast is set up to bring in all the Benjamins. And if you want to see Gavin Newsom's speech, he doesn't want you to be able to get it anywhere else except monetized through his podcast. This is absolutely unbelievable. You think I'm exaggerating? You think that I'm overreaching here and I'm being hyperbolic, that he's trying to monetize the mayhem that he has allowed to occur in history? People's lives are devastated. Arson, people are terrified to go downtown in Los Angeles as this continues to foment, and he's done nothing to stop it, literally nothing to stop it. His entire 8-minute speech, I'd love to play it for you, but we can't do that now. His entire 8-minute speech, he made one mention of people to not be violent, and it was at the very end. The entire speech was attacking Donald Trump. Why is that? Two reasons. Number one, he's fine with the violence in the streets because it keeps him in the public profile so he can make money. And number two, well, the way he's making the money. Because just moments after he gave his speech, he sent out this fundraising email. Look at that picture. He's protecting you, and even more, he's fighting for you. Donate here. Act blue. Gavin Newsom here. We're not just taking on the Trump administration here in California. We're taking on the entire Republican Party, who are relentlessly attacking our state. They talk about crime when red states have the highest per capita murder rates in the country. They talk about defunding California, but we're a donor state. We send the federal government $80 billion more than we receive. They talk about taxes, but in Florida and Texas, they tax the poorest more than we tax our richest. And then he asks for donations. He asks for donations so that he can continue to take the fight to Donald Trump. He's monetizing this. He's monetizing this and then going after anybody who actually plays his speech and criticizes it. If it weren't so audacious, if I didn't have the receipts to prove this to you, you would think I was full of crap. Remember when I said that he is a psychopath yesterday, a complete and total sociopath who will stoop to nothing or stoop to anything to retain and grow his power? This is a perfect example of it. It's beyond shameless. It's diabolical. And I guess what he didn't like was yesterday us exposing, first of all, the truth behind the lies in his speech, but also the money trail about who actually financed and funded a lot of the mayhem that you're seeing in the streets. And to that end, I'm sorry, Governor Newsom, you can try to call it copyright on this one too and try to censor us and silence us and keep us from getting the word out. But let's wrap up this first segment with more investigative reporting about who exactly is funding the violence that you're seeing in California. And spoiler alert, it's Gavin Newsom himself. This is reporting exclusively done by Jed McFadder. Now, Jed McFadder just co-wrote a book with Susan Crabtree, two great investigative reporters. The book is called Fool's Gold, and it's all about exposing California elites and the people who are ruining the state of California, like Gavin Newsom. We told you yesterday about CHIRLA, the Coalition for Human Immigration Rights in Los Angeles, and how their fingerprints are all over the mayhem you're seeing right now, all the community organizing that ends up being a protest turning into a violent riot. Well, check it out. Is it payback for big money support during the failed attempt to recall him in 2021? CHIRLA donated nearly $500,000 to oppose the 2021 recall effort against Gavin Newsom. Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights, CHIRLA, an advocacy group at the center of the anti-ICE protests in LA, sponsored a political action committee called Immigrant Power PAC, which donated a total of $471,000 to the Million Voter Project opposing the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021. This is according to public California election filings. CHIRLA Executive Director Angelica Salas served as treasurer of the Immigrant Power PAC, while also managing an army of CHIRLA volunteers who fought against the Newsom recall. I would love to know how many of those CHIRLA volunteers who got petitions signed and went door to door and tried to collect money to empower people to get out the vote to save Gavin Newsom from the recall effort, how many of those very same people are in the streets of Los Angeles today? That's what community organizing is all about. The Million Voter Project in recent days helped promote an urgent call to action to its supporters for an emergency rally in downtown LA to call out the reckless, harmful, and dangerous actions that ICE, police, and other agencies collaborate with. So they were in charge of getting people out in the streets during these riots. And then, along with their investigative reports here, here's the paperwork. They donated $500,000 in total to the Million Voter Project. Churla did. Here's the urgent call of action that they put out to make sure that people take to the streets. But here's the best part. California, hold on. I got to get to Judd McFetter's next post here. I didn't have it teed up. I thought it was all part of that one. All right. I always try to bring you the receipts, but trust me on this one. State of California, after the recall effort was defeated and Gavin Newsom was back in place as governor, the state of California gave a grant to Churla for over $30 million of tax dollars from the state of California. You see how this works? They donate $500,000 to the campaign. They make sure that Gavin Newsom stays in office. Gavin Newsom makes sure that Churla gets $30+ million in tax dollars from the state of California. And that money, it's all fungible, is now used to keep the pressure on the streets of California. This is the money trail for what we're seeing in LA right now. And Gavin Newsom is at the top of that very ugly, dirty, decrepit pyramid. And he's so craven and so psychopathic that he's even trying to silence this show and demonetize our efforts to get the word out. But it will not work. Demonetize all you want, Gav. You can't shut us up. Not anymore. We don't play that game anymore. We're going to say whatever the hell we want. And we're fighting the copyright claim. You better believe we are. We'll give you an update as soon as we know what YouTube says back to us. But in the meantime, at least now you know. Apparently, we're making a bit of a noise in Sacramento.